Looking at me, what do you see? You probably would say a 20-something, tallish, dark blonde and brown-eyed girl. Or maybe you'd go with healthy, a runner, or, oh, she's pretty stylish. You would never think that there's a scar that runs over half of my back. You would never think that I'm considered to be disabled. You would never think that when I was in 9th grade, I was so sad about how people judged me that I wished I was in a wheelchair. I have spent my whole life trying to navigate through the perceptions that people have of me just from looking at me. You would never think that an 11-year-old girl would want to use a rolling backpack while all the other kids use their classic monogrammed ones. You're right, I didn't want to. I mean, all the other kids were stuffing their cute backpacks in their overflowing lockers with their mini mirrors, while I had to keep mine in the guidance counselor's office. Every day in 6th grade, I had to use the elevator. One day when my friend and I stepped in with a teacher, she demanded to see my elevator pass and then continued to question why I would be there since I wasn't on crutches or in a wheelchair. I thought to myself, hey, my super cool rolling backpack should totally give this away. But it's true. I looked like everyone else. Don't get me wrong, I didn't want to stand out. No middle schooler does. But even then, I knew that I wanted people to know just from looking at me that I was disabled so they wouldn't doubt me. I was born with a condition called spina bifida. It's a rare neural tube defect where your spinal column doesn't completely close. Only 1 in 200,000 are born with it every year. Many people born with spina bifida have their entire neural tube column exposed to the outside world, leaving them confined to a wheelchair with severe learning disabilities and other neurological complications like fluid on the brain. My mom always said that I had the best of the worst case scenario, since I had the least severe type of spina bifida, but my spinal cord was tethered or stuck to a bone. At 5.5 weeks old, I had surgery to repair my spinal cord. Due to my amazing neurosurgeon, I was given the gift of walking. I never take it for granted. I know how lucky I am to stand here in front of you. With this miracle, though, my disability became invisible. With this blessing came great challenges. I knew that I wanted to make a difference in the lives of children since the time I could talk. From my numerous experiences with doctors and nurses at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, I knew that their kindness and care is what I wanted to do too. Of course, I came to know that kindness and care aren't a profession, but I thought I could use those things as a pediatrician. I then came to know, and when I got to 6th grade, that the endless sleep-deprived years of medical school weren't for me. I had fallen in love with 6th grade science and knew I could use my nurturing ways in the realm of teaching. Plus, I had some pretty incredible teachers and a guidance counselor who demonstrated to me the true and deep power that an educator could have. You would never think that the hardest part of navigating my invisible disability during school age was because of teachers. I was given an individualized education plan for my back, which listed all the accommodations I need to be the most successful in school. And one such accommodation for me was a special cushion chair. A fun fact, though, my high school had no walls. We had dividers to separate our classes, which made for a really fun game of hide and seek each day. Where could my chair be today? But one such day at the beginning of 9th grade world history, my chair was missing from my classroom, so I went to locate it. I quickly spotted it, which was a huge score, and then went to grab it while the teacher in the room was talking to someone. As I was leaving with the chair, I heard behind me, "Hey, where are you going with my chair?" I turned to see dismay written all across the teacher's face, and I answered saying, "It's actually meant for me since I had spinal surgery as a baby." She replied, "Well, next time I need to see a doctor's note." I was not only humiliated, but I was also crushed. She thought I was a liar. What 14-year-old would make up that she had spinal surgery? Years later, as a teacher, I understand why she did what she did. I don't justify her actions, but I know all the split decisions that you have to make every single day in the classroom. Like what to do about that kid who just keeps passing out candy, or the one who gets up to sharpen his pencil over and over, and even the one who's doing the classic passing out a note. But from her, I knew that I always wanted to give my students the benefit of the doubt. Had she been a more empathetic teacher, she wouldn't have questioned me. Had she been a more empathetic teacher, she would have processed that I said spinal surgery and even apologized for stopping me. She would not have made me feel like for the first time in my life I had to start lifting up my shirt to prove myself to people. She would not have made me feel like for the first time in my life that I wished I was in a wheelchair. You would never think that a teacher being furious at you would be the best thing to happen to you in high school. When my world history teacher found out what happened, he was furious. How did he find out, you might ask? My mom. Not my finest advocating moment, I admit, but he was mad for 2 reasons. The first being that this happened to me. Before even talking to me about what happened, he went to the teacher and made her realize the impact that her words had had. The second reason was that I felt I couldn't go to him for help. That's what made him particularly upset. He sat me down and stressed to me that he was there to help and protect me. It was in that moment that I realized that he would be the one to help me navigate through what was hidden from everyone else. From that day on, I did go to him for everything that happened to me in high school. He continued to help and protect me. He still would today. It was in that moment that I sat across from him that I realized what empathy really meant. It was in that moment that I sat across from him that I realized I wanted to be like him one day, a teacher who cared deeply. Empathy is essential in the classroom, both instilling empathy in students and having empathy as a teacher. My world history teacher embodied this. I, too, pride myself on being someone who tries to understand what others go through. Look, I even once consoled a kid who claimed that his dog had died as the reason why he didn't have his homework, even though I knew he didn't have a dog. I mean, of course I went to the guidance counselor over that one, but I still looked to give him the benefit of the doubt. While being able to teach content effectively is incredibly important, I fully believe that a successful classroom is founded on a teacher's ability to provide empathy. If I can provide empathy, then I can model for my students what it means to understand other people. If I can show them what empathy is about, then it can help them understand what it can do for them, both as giver and receiver. I have never been short of chances to learn what I didn't want to be like as a teacher. You would never think that a situation in school could be worse for me than what I've already told you. But when I was a sophomore in high school, my sister had to drive me to school every day. The school had asked her to park in the handicap spot using my handicap placard because there weren't enough spots for all the seniors. And one day as we backed in, we watched 2 teachers stare us down. As we got out of the car, the female teacher said, "Are you allowed to be parking there?" I said that I had a back problem and needed to. And the male teacher looked me right in the eyes and said, "Well, you look like the epitome of good health." I thanked him, but expressed that I wasn't. My sister was horrified. She had only ever heard of these things happening to me. Me, though, being the student I was, begged her not to say anything until we got home because I had a chemistry quiz first block that I wanted to crush. But she couldn't wait. And 3 blocks later, I was sitting in the guidance counselor's office learning what I wanted to be like as a teacher. The male teacher gave this genuine, heartfelt apology, tears falling and all, while the female teacher sat there cold and callous and told my mom on the phone that the only thing she had learned was the difference between a permanent and temporary handicap placard. Ultimately from this, I knew that I never wanted to judge a book by its cover and really wanted to know what lies deep inside those pages as my approach to teaching. And that's what I do. I get to know my students. I do countless interest inventories and personality tests to connect to them. I talk to them on a daily basis, and even when they try to tell me something that's not true, I listen to them. I understand where they're coming from, and then I can address the situation. I don't quickly jump to what I think is happening. I don't suspect they are lying to me. I console them when they're sad about a friend's situation or a grade. I even let them pick out the class fish's name as Lil Blue when I think it's a terrible name. I do all of this because I know that what I do and say can be a defining moment in their lives. I know the role that I have and the influence of my words. I know that when they leave my classroom, I want them to look forward to coming back the next day. They may not love my science funds, much to my chagrin, but they love being in my room, and it's because I care about what they go through. I know this from what they write to me. An example for you. I wanted to thank you for making me smile when I need it and making me laugh 24/7. So next time when you look in the mirror, smile, because your smile is priceless. While this is only an excerpt of what she wrote to me, her letter made me cry. She had expressed to me that while she might seem like this outgoing and bubbly girl, she's not. That while she might seem happy to be at school, the only reason she was happy was because I was there for her. And that's why I do what I do. What's just as important is that I share myself with them. I tell them that had my surgery not gone so smoothly, I would be sitting in front of them. I tell them everything else too, from the science behind spina bifida to what happened to me in school. I show them pictures of me as a baby and a diagram of spina bifida. I've answered every single question. Can you play sports? What was the worst thing to happen to you in school because of your back? Do you have any other problems from it now? Did you have staples? Can spina bifida be cured? If you could, would you give it to someone else? I get these questions because I tell them I'm an open book. I want them to know because it makes me who I am. It shows them what I stand for and why I teach them. My story makes me human. And when I tell my story, I stress the significance that looking at me, you would never be able to know. It helps them understand that everyone has something invisible to the naked eye, that everyone has something buried deep inside their pages for no one to read. Maybe you've never thought about the snap judgments you make. Maybe you've never thought about why your students behave the way they do. Maybe you've never thought about whether you have influenced the defining moment in a child's life. Even if you have, my challenge starting for you today is to take the time to act with empathy in your classroom. Are you up for the challenge?